Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Mary Frida Keira of Bright Life Kenya, Words That Build. Now this month, we've been focusing on the topic of boundaries. In the first week, we looked at how important boundaries are in our lives. We looked at what boundaries are and what role they play in our physical, mental, emotional well-being, and even our spiritual well-being. Now, the next week, we looked at how to set effective boundaries for your life. And today, we want to take the conversation a bit further. Now, for those of you who were not taught boundaries at a young age, you might be having a bit of a struggle in setting boundaries and enforcing them in your life. For those of you who boundaries were taught at an early age and you were validated and your parents allowed you to speak your mind, you may find it very easy to assert yourself and you may not even understand why people are not able to set boundaries for their lives. What does this mean? This means it is very key that we teach our children how to have healthy boundaries from a young age. That is what today's video is about. We want to learn how to teach our children to have healthy boundaries for their lives. So I'll be sharing a few tips on how to do this. Tip number 1 is define personal boundaries. Now, this will depend on how old your child is. For instance, how you define personal boundaries for a child who is 4 years old will be different from how you explain personal boundaries to a child who is 10 years old. It is never too late to start on this journey. So, if you have yet to start on how teaching your children boundaries, then it is just right enough that you start immediately so that even as they grow older, they are able to communicate what they need to people around them, communicate what they value, and communicate their limits in terms of what they will or will not be comfortable or safe with. So for a 10-year-old, you can sit down and have a conversation around what boundaries are. You can give them examples of boundaries, and you can teach them how important it is to have boundaries in their lives. You can then guide them on how maybe to formulate boundaries for them. For a younger child, you might need to step down to their level and maybe play a game, a role-playing game with them. For instance, you might give them an example of if they are playing with their friend and there's this toy that their friend really wants and your child is not willing to give this other child the toy, you can role play and be the other child and try to instill in them that it is okay to say no, that it is okay to refuse to do something when you are not comfortable doing it, that it is okay to assert themselves. And then you can exchange roles and let your child be the other child and you being them. And then you, in playing this game, you're sort of trying to show them what a personal boundary is and how to behave when it is violated and how to communicate when you don't want someone to cross a boundary. So the first step is, of course, to define what personal boundaries are. The second step that intertwines very much with this is encouraging your children to have open communication with you. Now, we are very busy people and sometimes we don't even have time to really sit down with our children. But children will always be communicating one way or another when we are around them. So this is about our availability as parents, our ability to tune in to what is my child really saying, our ability to be able to pick up from their body language or their words, what is it that they mean. So when you encourage your child to be open with you, this means what you're doing is you're allowing them to feel comfortable, to feel safe, expressing their emotions, their feelings, their concerns, and the things that disturb them, the things that make them happy. They feel free to be around you. When you do this, and in the process of time, what you're doing is you want to validate their feelings. You want to listen in and be able to know at which point do I interject and let this child know that their thoughts are valued, that their feelings are valid, that their concerns are valid. And you want to empower them to be able to keep on doing this, to keep on being assertive to keep on being someone who communicates what they need to those around them. Doing this also gives them that safe space for telling you when things are going wrong in their lives, so that you're able to then help them through whatever it is. Now, when you have an open line of communication, it will mean that even as your child does their daily things, then they are able to come to you and you will help them through the process of knowing what boundaries are there and what boundaries you want to instill. For instance, if they are playing outside and something happens and they are not even sure, is it a boundary or is this something that I want mommy's help with, they will come running to you and probably tell you that so and so has done this and that. That is a teaching moment. That is a moment where you can help your child to establish a boundary. You can teach them how to assert themselves. You can teach them at which point it is that they seek your help as a parent or the help of a teacher or someone older than them that they trust. So having an open line of communication then becomes a very, very pivotal place for your child to be able to establish healthy boundaries around them. Now, the third step is teach your child consent. Consent means being able to accept something to happen, that they have the power of choice, that your child can say yes or no in any given situation. So this is teaching your child early, for example, when it comes to bodily contact, that they have a say as to who can touch them and how they can touch them. It is teaching your child, for instance, in instances where we have family gatherings and people really like children and they want to come up to them and hug them and maybe kiss them. So it is teaching your child it is okay for them to say no. That when the child says to you, for example, that I don't want to hug this person, you're able to validate them and tell them it's okay, and maybe show them an alternative form of greeting that is comfortable to them, and not instead forcing them to maybe hug this said person because you want it to look as though your child is well behaved, and that denies them their autonomy. It denies them the right of choice. It denies them the feeling that they are in control of something as key as bodily contact. So teaching consent is telling your child it is okay to say no to things that they are not comfortable with, things that they do not feel safe with. It is teaching them also that when they say no and probably this person insists, this measure is what you take and this is what you do in such an instance. So let's empower our kids by teaching them consent at an early age. The next step is to teach your child what to do if they have already communicated their boundary to someone and they know what the boundary is teach them what do they do when the boundary is violated. Now, this is setting the limit for interventions that can happen when they have set a boundary and it is violated. Now, for example, if you have taught them that in terms of bodily contact, this is what is allowed, that someone has to ask you before your friend wants to jump on your back and play with you, they have to ask you if you're comfortable with this. And they tell this to that person, and their friend insists on doing that which they are not comfortable with. At which point does your child then seek you or seek your helper if they're the one looking out for them, their friend's mom if they are playing in their compound? At which point do they seek the intervention of an adult, a teacher or a Sunday school teacher or something of the sort? So it is being there in their dailies, listening to them even when they come and try to tell you something is happening during their play, guiding them on how and what to do when their boundaries are violated. So this is a continuous process that you will keep doing over time. It is not something that happens just like that you have taught your children boundaries and they know everything A, B, C to Z of boundaries in one sitting. This is something continuous that you keep on doing so that as they reach adulthood, they are able to then do it for themselves. So you start early so that your child can know this is what is done when this and this happens. Eventually, they are able to stand up for themselves. Now, the next step is set healthy boundaries for them. As we have said, these are children, so they are not able to set all the boundaries that they need to keep them safe and physically, mentally, emotionally healthy for themselves yet. You're training them to do this, but as a parent, it is your responsibility to then set healthy boundaries for them. It is also key that you explain these boundaries. Sometimes these are boundaries in terms of rules that you have placed in your home. It is up to you to explain these boundaries to them and tell them this is why we have set such and such a boundary. So an example of this is the curfew that our parents had placed for us to reach home at 6 p.m. And we knew that this is how our home operates. Everyone was supposed to be home by a certain time. And I think we avoided a lot by listening to our parents and being home early. And we understood that this boundary had been set because it would have been unsafe for us to be outside past that time. And on instances when we had to be, then our parents knew where we were. So you set boundaries for your children around the kind of TV shows that they will watch without supervision, or the ones that they will watch with supervision, so that you're guiding what it is that they intake. What kind of content will they be able to consume on social media, and which ones are they not allowed to? So you are the primary person who is to set healthy boundaries for your child in this stage when they are still in the formative stage, still under your care, still in need of guidance in terms of boundaries. But even as you do this, you explain it to them so that they know that boundaries are set so that I can operate in a way that is physically, mentally, emotionally healthy, in a way that is optimal for me and those around me. That boundaries help me to respect myself, others to respect me, and me to also respect others. So we need to set boundaries for our children and make sure we enforce them so that our children can grow holistically. Now, the last step is modeling this behavior of setting boundaries to our children. Now, children operate in a monkey see, monkey do sort of thing. For example, in my house right now, you'll find my daughter many times saying, hi guys, welcome to my channel, because she has seen me shoot these videos. So children are really consumers of what they see us do and how they see us do it. We might be preaching water and drinking wine, and this is what they will pick up. So in terms of boundaries, you are the first role model to your child on how you set boundaries. How do you communicate your needs to your spouse? Your children are watching, your children are listening. How do you communicate when you're frustrated about something to your better half, or to your help, or to the people that you live with? This is the first contact they will have with boundaries, the boundaries you have set for yourself. Do you respect them? Do you enforce them? And what do you do when they are not enforced? So we have to model good behavior when it comes to setting our own boundaries and how we enforce them to our children, because we are their first teachers and they will pick these things from us. So those are the tips I had surrounding how to help your child to have healthy boundaries. Remember that this will be an ongoing process, and the key thing you can do is to be available for your children, is to listen to what they are saying or what they are not saying, is to be there and to listen to them talk about their day at school or a random event at school, because this will inform you of the child's surroundings and what they are going through in their life. It is learning to read between the lines when your child talks. What is it that they are not saying? If your child tells you all of a sudden that they do not want to go to school, are you going to just tell them you have to go to school, or are you going to try to listen and find out what is it that happened in school that is making my child not want to go? It could be even you reaching out to their teacher to find out, is there anything special that happened today that is making my child say that tomorrow they don't want to come to school, while they've been a child who likes going to school? So let's create time to be with our children, to talk to them, to engage with them, to learn the dynamics around the lives that they are living, even if they are in school. Let's always create time to do that, because when we create this open environment of communication, then our children will know that we can always come to mommy or daddy or our guardian when we are in trouble, and they will listen to us, and they will validate us, and they will help us through whatever it is we are going through. So thank you for listening in to today's episode. If you liked this content, please subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. Next week, we are going to be tackling what the Bible says about boundaries. So I'll be delving into that deeper so that you can know that even as you do all this, it is something that Christ modeled in his life on earth. Thank you and have a nice weekend. Bye.